Let me tell you a truth that nobody told us growing up. That perfect family doesn't exist. And once you understand that, your healing actually begins. You see, many of us grew up with a notion of a perfect family. And actually, we grew up drawing up a picture of the families that we grew up in. We painted a picture for everyone else and sadly painted that picture for ourselves. And that's why when we discover that that picture that we created is not a reality, it leaves us confused. And now, at the other end of the spectrum, there are people who actually accepted the reality that our family is not perfect. But sadly, they ended up describing their family as toxic or narcissistic. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I have been this person who believed in family, staked my all, gave everything that I had, and I felt betrayed. And I've also been on the other side when I said, you know what? There's actually something wrong with the family that I came from. Could it be that we are toxic or narcissistic and all that? If any of these two people actually defines who you are, don't worry. This video is just for you. My name is Coach Judy Mzungu Jabali, and I am here to talk about family and the dynamics of family. Is it possible to heal? Is it possible to become everything that God designed for us to be? And so today in this conversation, we are going to try to discover or to find out what actually happens within the dynamics of a family. First, I want us to understand that within the family setting, whether it's your mother, father, each of us or each of these parents came from a place where there was some sort of dysfunction. And for most parents, especially from the older generation or even in my generation, most people came wounded. So maybe your father, he came wounded from wherever, maybe something happened in that family unit. Your mother came wounded from wherever because that something happened in that family unit. So by the time these parents come within the union of marriage, guess what? Two broken people have just formed a family. When these two people form a family, what then happens is that, of course, they get children. And when they get these children, the dynamics of where they came from is further complicated by the dynamic of where the other parent came from. And so in this whole complication is where all of us have been raised. So for us then to begin to discover or come out of this situation, the first thing that you must ask yourself is, what is my mother's personality? What is my father's personality? And how has my mother's personality or my father's personality affected how we relate to one another? Don't be judgmental. Let's take this nice and slow. The next thing that you need to ask yourself, having then seen the dynamic of this is my mother's personality and this is how she relates with me, this is my father's personality and this is how he relates with me, now I want us to take it one step further and ask ourselves, where did your mother come from? How were your grandparents? What was your grandfather's personality? What was your grandmother's personality? How did that affect your mother and how she responds to situations, to circumstances, and even to life? Let's take a moment and do the same forensic on your father. What was your paternal grandfather's personality? What was your paternal grandmother's personality? How did it affect how your father became? When you begin to look at it that way, maybe for the first time, you can recognize that your father is not just simply your father, but he is a soul. He is a human being who has also been affected by where he came from. The third thing that now you need to ask yourself is now, one, you've been able to understand your father's personality, your mother's personality. You have been able to understand, two, where they came from and begin to see the light. They're behaving like this because of where they came from. The third thing that you need to ask yourself is that how then did that cycle that came from your grandfather, grandmother, paternal, grandfather, grandmother, maternal, how then did it affect the way my parents related to me? Many people are very ignorant about how their parents were raised and how that affected how they too were raised by their parents. But if you can be able to take that journey backwards, then you will have some appreciation for how your parents were raised and how that informed how they raised you. Once you settle that, the next thing that you need to ask yourself is, do you think with the set of circumstances that your father or mother had, do you think they could have done better? You know what? If we sit down and actually analyze where our parents came from, their set of circumstances and their situation, maybe we will lend them grace for the work that they did raising us. And the beautiful part of this story is that it will actually help us to humanize our parents. It will help us to understand, for the most part, especially in those days, our parents were getting married in their 20s with no sense of identity, maybe having been wounded from wherever they came from. And then with that dynamic, completely ill-prepared for being able to handle the differences that come with, especially in most times, you marry someone who is opposite from you. They had no understanding of marrying someone who is so different from them. And so with all that, we found ourselves growing up in what looks like a mess. And my message today is just to tell you or to highlight to you that actually what you have seen in your family is what happens almost universally. The only thing is, some people have managed by the grace of God to navigate what looked like their family dysfunction and somehow come out better. The truth is, many people, because of the family dynamic, they actually lost their identity, they lost their purpose, they were wounded within that family dynamic, and that affected their destiny. The conversation that we are having today is a conversation that helps us to begin to heal first as individuals. Having looked at our parents, understood their situation, understood their circumstances, and then begin to write a new script for our lives and for our future generations. The other day I was coaching someone, and after we finished the coaching session, she told me, I have written letters to my father and to my mother. I've written letters to them, to the younger versions of who they were in their 20s. Because now I recognize that they did the best that they could have done for me in that situation. This is that moment that you can go back and ask yourself, having looked at your lineage, having looked at your father, your father's personality, your mother's personality, having looked at where they came from, to just take that internal journey that says, you know what? This is where I came from. And by the grace of God, I can write a better script. That writing a better script only happens when you can sit down, accept your reality, and then begin to move forward. In the next week, we will be talking about breaking the cycles of the family dynamics, of the negative family patterns from where we came. My name is Coach Judy Mzungu Jabali. I am the author of Power Your Vision, and I am also the coach and the founder of the ReAlignment Solution. See you on the next edition.